Hey guys.
Hey,
guys,
it's Betty.
Hi Betty.
Hi there.
Hey, I'm just trying, if you guys can just hang out for 1 second. Somehow I posted 2 different links, so I'm trying to get the right link to some other people. Just hang on 1 second. On how to transform in about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna post the link.
Press Alt-A. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, this is Jane.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you guys all for being on the call. I somehow posted 2 different links. I have no idea how I did that. So just give me 1 second because I'm trying to get everyone who wanted to be on here. Okay, so just what?
You're fine. There's no problem. You're good.
Okay, thanks guys.
There, I can hear.
I'm posting it on the chat and on Facebook. This is only my 2nd time hosting a Zoom meeting, so still figuring out the quirks.
Hey, Elisa. Well, I need to tell you because nobody called me back.
Hello guests from the Zoom call. You may not know, but you are not muted, so we can hear most of all. But you can mute yourself.
How do I mute myself?
In the left corner of your screen, if you're at a laptop, there's a micro. You can touch that micro and then you're muted.
Left bottom corner.
Left bottom corner. Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I got it to everyone correctly. Is everyone here? There's Tim. Okay, cool. My teammates are here too.
Hey, Angelique, if you need to mute everybody, if you click on participants at the bottom, there's an option to mute all participants except for yourself.
Cool. I'm about to do that. You're all getting muted.
Probably easier.
All right, so if you guys want to say something, you just have to unmute yourself. So, because I have muted all of you so that we can go ahead and start. And it's so wonderful to see all of your faces. Thank you for coming to my webinar. It means a lot. All right, so this is going to be about how to transform fear into motivation. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that I learned when I was going through one of the most difficult times in my life, and the ways that I learned how to take fear and terror and really turn it into something that could push me forward instead of keep me paralyzed. So one of the first things that I learned when I was experiencing terror, when I was going through my divorce, was that it was really important for me to be able to sit in the pain of what I was going through. And the reason that was so difficult was because I had spent years and years in a pretty thick state of denial regarding the person that I was married to. And it ended up creating an extreme awakening. Anytime that you're in denial and then you wake up from the denial, there's such an overload of emotion. So I had to get really, really good at being focused and being able to keep as much calm as possible while feeling emotion. And the way that I did that was by moving down into my heart space. So in that place where you feel love for someone, so if you have a child, where you feel love for your child, anyone that you feel great love for, how you can kind of feel it swell in your chest. Well, that's the same place you want to get into when you're going to feel emotions and bring presence to them in order to dissipate them. And sometimes presence is really difficult to sustain. It seems like it's difficult for a lot of people to sustain it, period, but then it's even more difficult to sustain when the emotion that you're experiencing is uncomfortable. So I started practicing the art of compassion, the art of being able to really tap into that feeling of compassion and hold it in that space of my heart and offer it to me. So I created myself like two people. Like one of me was receiving and one of me was giving. And I would practice receiving the compassion that the other me was giving me. And this really started to help me move that fear, move the terror, move all of the different pain. So it's a difficult concept. It sounds simple, but the practice of it is actually quite challenging. So it takes practice. So if you start after this meeting and you get frustrated, just keep trying, because it does take time and practice. The second thing that I learned was how to detect when I was in a state of denial. And this is also really difficult because for the most part, when we're in denial, we don't know that we're in denial. That's the whole point. When you're in denial, you don't know it. But denial is a really dangerous place to be. And after having been in denial for so long, I just was very passionate about being aware. And so I started to really figure out what it felt like to be in denial and what were the tiny little cues that I could sense about myself when I was in a state of denial. And the main thing that I realized was that when I was in a state of denial, there was always some type of conversation going on to myself of me trying to convince myself of something. So for example, I'm going to use the big one, which was while I was in the marriage, I was constantly telling myself that I was happy. I was telling myself that I liked that person. I was telling myself that he was a good person, that he was a good father, all of those types of things. And when I would tell myself those things, I could feel that they were forced. And it's not like it was denial 100% of the time, because there was a lot of the time where I was really angry or really upset or whatever, and I would journal, and there would be all of my honest emotion right there. And I have years of that. But when everything was you know, somewhat status quo, I would slip back into some type of denial coma and really kind of tell myself these things. And I've noticed that, you know, that can get tricky because we live in a time period where there's a lot of talk about affirmations and that kind of thing. And with the clients that I've worked with, one thing that I've noticed is that there's a fine line between trying to force yourself to believe something about your reality that isn't true. And if you don't take certain steps, nothing about that will change. And then being able to talk to yourself about something that you actually can work toward. So that's a fine line. And I think that the way that you can really detect what you're doing with clarity is to journal and to realize what your true emotions are about something. And if you notice that your emotions are repeatedly the same about something, then, and it's not something that you can change, like the way I felt about my ex-husband, then there isn't an affirmation or anything that's going to make that better. That's just something that you have to face and you have to do something about. So does that make sense to everyone, what I just said? You can give a thumbs up if it does. Cool. All right. And the third thing that I learned that really helped me to transform my own fear was to begin talking to my future self. And the way that that came about was while I was going through my divorce, I was suicidal constantly. And thankfully I had formed a relationship with Geschichte, which if none of you know who Geschichte is the angelic realm that I met when I almost died when I was 19 years old. And so when I would start to get close to going through with what I wanted to go through regarding killing myself, Geschichte would say to me, "Aren't you curious? Aren't you curious about who you become? Aren't you curious about what your life becomes?" And I would say, yes, I'm curious. And they would say, well, you know, try to be more curious than depressed. Try to be more curious about who you become and what your life becomes. Try to think about that, imagine it, and work on your beliefs about it when you're feeling depressed so that you can pull yourself out of there. Tara, are you raising your hand? You can just unmute yourself. Okay, I don't know how to unmute you. So those were the three things that I learned, and I wanted to tell you my side of things, but then I also want you guys to hear Geschichte's side of things because Geschichte is more eloquent and much more intelligent than me, and will have great things to say. So if all of you will just close your eyes and just relax. I'm going to sing, and after I sing, then Geschichte will speak through me. So just real quick, you know, over a course of about 15 years, I went through what Geschichte calls a type of grafting where this was possible, where I studied with them so much that it was easy for us to combine and for them to speak through me. So that's what's about to happen. So just close your eyes. I'm gonna sing. Om, say Safanata. Om. Say Safanata. Ooh. Ooh. Hey. Safe nukam. Seiken. Safe nukam. Seiken. Ooh. Safe no. Ooh. For say safe nukam. Seiken. Hey. For no day. Hey. For no day. Come for day. He come for day. Come for day. He come for day. Hey. For no day. Hey. For no day. For Son Tien Kien Nu. Son Tien Kien Nu. Nyam 48. Nyam 48. Home for Son Tien Kien Nu. Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to see all of you on quite an important topic for humanity: how to transform fear into motivation. Because fear can be motivating, but most of the time, fear is paralyzing, isn't it? It keeps you guys stuck, and it keeps you in patterns that are not going to lead you to your most magnificent version of yourself. Yes? So we're going to speak about this in the way that it was outlined, so that you can have a more comprehensive understanding of how to take this concept into your own life and practice emotional alchemy. So the first thing that you want to be able to do is really move into your emotions, okay? And we're specifically talking about the ones that are the most difficult to feel. Because what we notice regarding humanity is that for the most part, humans try to avoid their emotions instead of pay attention to them. And there is a misunderstanding that by paying attention to the emotions, it will make you an emotional mess. It will make you, what's the word? Irrational. But in fact, someone who knows how to really sit within their emotion can transform it quickly. Someone who is not afraid of their own emotions can really become, in every moment, better than they were before. Because what emotions are doing is giving you feedback about your inner world and its relationship to your outer world. That is the purpose of emotions. You are creators at your core. And the way that you know how to further create within your life is by paying attention to your own feedback. Okay? So the emotions are a specific type of feedback system. And this feedback system is vibrational, okay? And we know that many people are talking about the vibrations of emotion, but if you don't really understand what that means, then it's a pointless concept. But what it means is that whatever you are resonating with, you will experience, okay? That is a very profound concept. Whatever you are resonating with, you will experience. This is why it's so important, not only to be able to have the bravery to sit within your own emotions in order to feel them, validate them, dissipate them, but also in order to choose differently. Because if you know what joy feels like, if you know what comfort feels like, if you know what relief feels like, if you have these emotions as strong points in your emotional database, so to speak, then you can call them forth when you need them, okay? But you have to know what they feel like in order to even call them forth. And you have to know what they feel like in order to have them as a goal in front of you, right? Meaning that if the only emotion that you're used to practicing is anger, for example, then it's going to be very difficult to even understand what relief feels like. Or if the only emotion you're used to feeling is depression, then it's going to be more and more difficult for you to access contentment or excitement, okay? And when you can get really good at feeling all of your emotions, one of the beautiful things that happens is that you create a more vast emotional data bank. Does this make sense to everyone? Can you give us a thumbs up if it does? Okay. So first step, you're going to just feel whatever emotion you're having. Be present with it. Be present with sadness. Be present with happiness. Be present with anger. Be present with any of them. No matter how uncomfortable they are, be present with them. Take note of them. When they're the positive emotions, hold yourself within them as long as you can in order to really create a strong point in your emotional database, okay? Because this is a general weakness that we notice with humans. Really, really good at experiencing the shit emotions. Pretty bad at experiencing the great ones, okay? And part of that reason is that you guys don't practice holding them for long enough. You don't practice being in them long enough, okay? So notice it. Notice when you feel content and be with it. Notice when you feel excited and be with it. Notice when you feel thankful and be with it. Feel the texture of it in your heart. Notice when you feel compassionate and be with it. And that compassionate energy is a very, very strong energy. We would say that the compassion energy is probably one of the most strong on your planet. And it is not to be confused with pity. Okay? Compassion is different than pity. Compassion believes in something while deeply loving it, while deeply understanding where it is. Okay? And if you can grow the energy of compassion within you, within your heart, then anytime you're feeling fear, anger, any of those negative emotions that are so uncomfortable, you can conjure simultaneously the great emotion, the great energy of compassion. And you can offer it to the you that feels uncomfortable in the anger, in the fear, in the grief. And if you can hold presence in this way, if you can really practice this and begin to master it, you will watch how it will change your life significantly. Because remember what we said earlier, that which you resonate with, you experience in your life, okay? So if you start transforming your fear and your anger and your grief into states of great thankfulness, great compassion, great love, then you will start to resonate with different life experiences. Meaning you will be drawn in directions, you will be magnetized to circumstances, to people that you weren't before, okay? Because this is an energetic existence, a vibrational existence, and there is always a magnetism going on. And you have control over your inner world, which is the point, the center point of the magnetism. Does this make sense to everyone? Yeah. So if you can go from that place over and over again, however many times it takes, really this is something to practice every day in your life, for the rest of your life, and to become so magnificent with that you change everything about you. You become bigger, you become more loving, you become more peaceful. People start to feel like they're healing in your presence. Have any of you ever been around someone like that? It's quite beautiful. And you all have the ability to have that type of influence, but you have to master your inner world first. And this is one of the main ways to do that. And if you can add into that your imagination about who you want to become. Who do I want to become in this world? What do I want to feel like? That is the most important question Not what kind of house do I want to have, not how much money do I want to have, not what kind of job do I want to have, but what do I want to feel like? What do I want to feel like to myself? And what do I want to feel like to others? When someone comes into my presence, what do I want them to feel? When I'm in a group of people, what do I want to feel? How do I want to feel toward myself? We started teaching Angel this a long time ago, and even when she was in that situation with the person that she was married to, she would practice this, and she was good at making it generalized, and she would always see herself as this magnificent light, just this radiating light that was comforting and to others, and that helped others feel like they could feel themselves with more clarity. And she would just focus on that for long periods of time. So when she started going through the worst part of the divorce, and we said to her, "Aren't you curious? Aren't you curious about who you become?" She could say, "Yeah, I actually am. I really am curious, because I know I've been investing in this idea. I know I've been investing in who I want to become. I've been investing in it with my imagination. I've been investing in it with my emotions. And I'm really starting to feel that I'm becoming her. So yes, I want to be diligent. I want to be patient. I want to feel this unfold." And her belief in this future self that she had been creating was probably the biggest thing that catapulted her out of that misery. And it really worked. And it really can work for each one of you. So if you can develop the person that you want to become in the way that they feel, and you can write that down, and you can really start investing your emotion in that and your imagination in that, then you can start to feel what steps you need to take in your life that move you more toward that. Okay? And so these practices really do transform these uncomfortable emotions into emotions that are uplifting. Can you all see how? Can you understand how after we explain it? Well, that's wonderful. Do you guys have any questions? If you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask us.
I didn't have a question as much as a confirmation, if that's cool.
Absolutely.
And that's I agree 100%. And in my own way, I've done the same thing. I found my way to face my emotions, and I especially love the word diligent, because I've been diligent to sit with that shit and to work it out and to know what my future self might be, and to sit with whatever's in the way of me being that future self. And through that diligence of sitting with the emotions and not moving away from them, not making them wrong, but just learning from them and seeing what they've got for me, I've also found my way. And I was suicidal for a number of years as well. And I didn't have quite the same message, but similar. And it was just beautiful to hear that from another being and their version of how that showed up. So I just wanted to share that.
That's wonderful, Tim. And what about the positive emotions? Do you practice those as well?
I do more now, yeah. One of the things that I teach is about you can't selectively numb things out. So when you numb the so-called bad stuff out, you numb out the good stuff too. You know,
That's accurate.
So
That's very accurate.
when I couldn't sit with the painful stuff, I could neither sit with the good stuff.
Right.
So the more that I cleared the painful stuff, the more that I can sit with the good stuff, because I'm clearer as a vessel, if you like. So I can then allow all of it through. So and sometimes the painful stuff's valid to feel as well, because
Absolutely.
that's the richness of life, right? Is to feel that full variety through, from ultimate joy to ultimate pain, is like being a human.
Absolutely.
But when we shut down because of an overwhelm of a certain kind of pain, we shut the whole lot out.
That's accurate.
So yeah, it's beautiful when you realize that and understand exactly what you're talking about. Life's a much richer kind of experience.
We completely agree.
Awesome. Lovely to talk to you.
And you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from anyone else? Can we hear from one of our students? Hey, Bill, can you tell us a little bit about the movement for you from numbness to being able to feel?
Yeah, I guess when I first started working with you a couple of years ago, I guess maybe 2.5 years ago, I was in a situation where I found it, I couldn't feel anything. I was really in a situation where I couldn't feel good emotions, I couldn't feel bad emotions, and what Jen talked about really was true. And I've heard you, Geschichte, talk about the same thing too. You can't selectively handpick the emotions you want to feel. You have to dive into and be with all emotions, and that's the only way to really truly live life to the fullest. But I was in a situation where I couldn't feel anything. I just shut everything down. I was just numb and unable to exist, feeling anything good or bad. And I was in that space for a very long time. I don't even know how I really ended up there, but I did nonetheless. And then it took me quite a while to come out of that. It was a gradual process and a fairly lengthy process to get to where I could feel. But it's really interesting to compare, kind of look back a couple of years and look where I'm at now and what I feel. And yeah, I mean, there's bad things too, but you can't have the good without the bad. And I appreciate that now. I do feel a richness in my life now that I did not feel a couple of years ago. So I'm truly grateful for Geschichte and you, Angel, and helping me get to this point and realize my potential.
Well, we're very proud of you, Bill.
Thank you.
Are there no more questions? Really? None of you have any questions? We covered it that well. Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
how you doing? It's Veronique.
Hello, Veronique.
Oh, hey.
We're wonderful.
I was wondering about the emotions and your feelings. As a medium, I'm trying to, I don't know if I got to do it differently. I have to do it more, get into my emotions, but there are times I feel completely out of my body. And I'm just from the outside and I'm looking at myself and I'm not sure exactly what that means or I'm supposed to do with that. I know I'm trying to keep my emotion in check. I address them, I acknowledge them, and then what I do after I've addressed, I'll let them go. I don't know if this is the right way to do it or not. If you could help me with that.
Well, let's address the first thing you said, which is that you feel like you come out of your body. So
Yes.
have you noticed, are you in a state of what you would consider anxiety when that happens?
It not 100%, no. It might be, but sometimes I'm just I'm not conscious of what I'm doing, but I may not at that time. It really depends.
And do you notice a theme at all in what type of emotion you're experiencing when you're catapulting out?
I'm not paying attention, or it goes so quickly. I don't realize what I'm doing. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. So if we were in your shoes, when that part began to happen, where we were not experiencing ourselves in our body anymore, we would do a specific breathing exercise combined with a specific prayer, okay?
Okay.
Because when that occurs, it is very difficult to be present with emotions if you're not in your body with them, okay? So when we noticed that that was occurring, we would speak to Earth. We would feel all the way down into the earth, all the way into her core. And we would ask, please pull me back in. Please pull me down and connect me to your center so that I can feel my own heart.
Okay. So would that be like grounding?
And as we said that prayer, we would take deep breaths, bringing energy up through the bottoms of our feet, all the way up, coming out the top of the head, and then moving back down on the exhale, down through the bottoms of the feet. And we would do at least 10 of those breaths after the prayer.
Okay.
And then we would focus on the center of our chest, and that place where we feel love. Okay? And we would we would do this exercise, in fact, until we felt ourselves back in our chest. Okay? Because it's not until you're back in your chest that you're even going to have clarity on what you're feeling. And what we can feel through you is that you're having some type of trauma response, which is shooting you out. Okay? And at that point, what's most important is for you to come back in. Does this make sense to you?
Yes. Thank you.
And then from that point, you can do the work that we spoke about earlier. Okay, you can start using the techniques that we spoke about in this webinar. But first, you need to get in your body.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much for the wisdom and the inspiration. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any more questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
First of all, nice to talk to you. And my question is, some time ago, a couple of months ago, I experienced what can I only describe as an non-local awareness, like awareness beyond the time-space continuum. And at some point during that experience, I realized I wasn't a human being having a spiritual experience. I was spiritual being remembering or experiencing human experience, if that makes sense. And in that state of awareness, I was detached. I wasn't attached to anymore anything about me as a Taika, as a human, as a person, and all the story in my life that goes with that, all the conditioning and everything, all my beliefs and things like that. I was pure, like a spiritual being, experiencing awareness and remembering how it is to be human, having human experience. So it was like a transition from those two awarenesses. And at some point, I that experience lasted for one evening, and then I started to come back to the human consciousness. And my question is, since that experience, that awareness was infinitely more powerful, more intelligent, more bigger than the human awareness that I'm experiencing in everyday life, how can I go back to that experience and get all that wisdom and infinite possibilities from there and bring it back to my human consciousness? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. First of all, how wonderful that you had that experience. Yeah.
Because yeah, that is wonderful.
When you have an experience like that, you can never go back, can you?
No, I was describing that experience. One of my, I'm hypnotist, and I was explaining that to one of my fellow students, and he asked a question because he has had that same experience, and he asked, what would happen if during that experience I was taking a sword and cut your head off? And I would assume that normally people would say something like, I would die, or I would die and then my spirit would go somewhere or something like that. I said, I don't know, I would have to take a moment and figure it out because I couldn't go back to my body anymore. So that answer, I realized later, was again that spiritual being explaining that, okay, my human body would die, I couldn't go back, but I would have to take time to know what to do. So that experience was so powerful, and I got glimpse of that, how much I can take from that experience. So I'm really curious to know how can I go back to that experience, if there's something that I can consciously do to do that.
Well, number one, the first thing that you can do is practice the way it felt in as many spare moments as possible, okay? So if we were in your shoes and we had had an experience like that, we would call it forth often. Not to try to recreate it necessarily, but to just feel it. Because you don't have to recreate it, you already experienced it, okay?
Right.
And this is really important. This is a great question that you're asking because it gives a lot of insight into the human experience and how there is no need to chase things, because that experience, Taika, is already within you, okay? That knowing that you have now is already within you. So at this point, all you're doing is teaching yourself, training yourself how to access it. And the more you can be present with it and the more you can grow it, the more it will become the dominant way you feel about life, okay? Because what's going on within you is that your, what we call your 97%, the biggest part of you, spoke to you. It had a very intimate conversation with you and said, this is what you really are. And it's time for you to start experiencing life as this. Yes? And so now your job in your egoic perspective as the 3% is to go, oh, okay. Well, then please help me harmonize with you. Please help me surrender to you. Because I can feel that you're the bigger part of me. I can feel that the majority of truth about my experience, you have wisdom about. So help me in my spare moments. Recall that experience. Help me feel it in my heart. Help me feel it in my body. Help me feel it and know it in my mind. And help me be present with that for as long as possible. And then help me grow that presence within that so that I can become that knowing in my life experience. Because that's what you're going for. You're going for the knowing becoming dominant instead of the doubt becoming dominant. And as humans are in their egoic perspective, the doubt is predominant. So when you have an experience like that, you're lucky. You're lucky, but you have to be diligent in practicing your way back to it. So build the bridge. Build the bridge through practice, through diligence, and through your memory. Okay? Does that make sense to you?
It does. So if I understand correctly what you're saying, I can have like experience both awareness at the same time, because once I kind of enter to that same experience, I then again become that spiritual being, and then I guess I'm thinking in the wrong way, that then I cease to exist as a human being and a human awareness at that point. So are you saying that I can experience both simultaneously, even though my experience in that experience I couldn't understand the concept of it? Felt like a transition from one to other, where when I became spiritual being, I wasn't anymore human awareness. So are you saying that as a human being, I ask my higher self or my spiritual being to
you can experience
more of that? Sorry?
Yes, that's what we're saying. We're saying that you have to be the one to build the bridge
As a human.
between you and you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have to grow that experience within your emotional self. So you have to practice it a lot, and not practice it in the way of, oh, I've got to get back to that, but practice it in the way of, it's time to feel what I felt, and to just allow yourself to feel it. Okay. And if you'll get good at that, and you can practice the way that felt, if you can start practicing that 10 to 20 minutes a day, you'll be amazed how it changes your life. Okay? Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, it does now.
Yeah.
So
because as a human, you're always going to have that 3% of you, that egoic perspective, which thinks that you're separate from everything, and that thinks that your body matters, because in your experience, it does matter. It is important. You're not going to lose it completely, and you don't want to lose it completely. It's the entire point of you being human, but it doesn't have to be the dominant component. The dominant component can be that I am the spiritual being having this human experience, and I can balance this in a way that allows me to feel the totality and the richness and the fullness of my humanity. And I can feel the connectedness of everything. And I can feel that while it's important, it's also fleeting. And I can balance all of these different emotions and feelings about life in a graceful way, making me a much more broad-minded human being, a much more powerful and kind human being, a much more allowing and tolerant human being, and a much more confident human being. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
So thank you very much for the insight and wisdom.
Are there any more questions? Okay, well, we will allow Angel back in. She has something else to talk with you about. And we'll see you next time. Okay. Hey guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was Geschichte. For those of you who have not met Geschichte before, aren't they just so cool? So I'm really excited to tell you guys about something that I created. Well, we created it. I created it with Geschichte. So when I was going through my divorce, I was constantly saying, I really wish that there was something that could help me go through this more efficiently. And I was speaking of the emotions that I was going through. And so Geschichte and I have created that. We have created a program that can take you from a space of denial or a space of brokenness and lead you through those healing steps into a space of triumph and confidence. And we created it in a way that it can be applied to basically anything, meaning that it can be a tool for the rest of your life in any part of your life where you want to experience growth. And it's pretty cool. So the steps, it's a 6-step process. And the steps, the first step is awaken extreme self-awareness. The second step, transform pain by bravely accepting it. The third step, passionately liberate the trauma. The fourth step, unconditionally nurture your heartbreak. The fifth step, infuse divine power into your spirit. And the sixth step, soar with radiant confidence. So it is 6 videos which guide you through different exercises and different deep understandings about each one of those concepts. Geschichte is the one teaching the whole course. It is 3 guided meditations also by Geschichte, which are more powerful than I can explain to you. And there's actually a lot of people on this call who have really experienced their meditations and how they transform your life. So I'd like to just hear from someone real quick about that. Whoever would like to speak about that.
Yeah, I would, Angel. This is Pamela.
Hi, Pamela.
Hi. I've used meditations for months, and they are fabulous. I think they're one of my favorite tools ever. They're very easy because all you have to do is lay down and listen to the meditation. And they are so life-changing that I don't even have words to describe. So I think they're priceless and just such an easy tool, and would highly recommend them to anybody.
Thanks, Pamela.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so Geschichte designs the meditations to do a lot of the work that they just talked about for you. So the intelligence within them is, it adapts to the person that's experiencing the meditation and whatever it is within them that needs to undergo the emotional alchemy. And you can feel it happening. Sometimes you can't even stay awake through the meditations, even if you're sitting up. And you'll just start to notice after practicing them for a while that things that you used to have a problem with are different. You don't have a problem with that anymore. And it's like, I've had people report back to me, I just realized the other day that I'm no longer having an issue with confidence, or I just realized the other day that, you know, I'm no longer stuttering, you know. So it's like this easy transition out of something that's been very detrimental. So anyway, that 6-step program with the 3 meditations. The meditations, I usually sell those for $125 each. So that's $375 worth of meditation. And all of the teachings of Geschichtes in the program, that's $250 worth of Geschichtes teachings. This is normally a $97 course, but I'm knocking it down to $37 for all of you early birds. And you also get a bonus, which is a piece of my artwork. It's high-res copy of one of my pieces of a cardinal flying called May You Soar. So you can download it. You can print it on anything you want. You can print it ginormous and put it on your wall. You can put it on a t-shirt, whatever you want. Just don't try to resell it. But if you're interested in that program, just visit cultivatedU.com/store, and you can get that early bird special today. So you guys have any more questions? I'm typing the website in the chat so you can see it. cultivatedu.com/. Where's the /? There it is. Store. Well, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. I have, and I really, really appreciate all of you being on the call. If there's no more questions, then say bye to you guys. You're welcome, Orla. You're welcome, Bill. You guys can, I'm gonna unmute you. There, okay. Hi, Mark.
Hello, Angelique. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for being on the call. All right, love all you guys. I'll hopefully see you in the next one.
Thank you, Angel.
Okay.
Thanks, Angel.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Bye bye bye.
Bye.